The wind howled over the open plains as dusk settled across the ranch, and the old cabin at the edge of the field stood lonely, half forgotten, the smoke from its chimney long gone cold because no one had cooked in it for months. The cowboy Cole Turner had spent most of his nights alone, surviving off stale bread, coffee strong enough to peel paint, and whatever jerky he could tear apart with tired teeth. Until one evening he finally decided he'd had enough of the silence and the emptiness. He rode into town, boots heavy with dust, and hired a cook for just one night, telling himself it was nothing more than a passing luxury, a temporary comfort before going back to the grit and grind of the cattle drive. The cook who showed up was not the weathered, apron-wrapped woman he expected, but a gentle-eyed girl named Clara, carrying a basket of fresh herbs, flour, and something warm in her smile that softened the edges of the cabin before she ever struck a match to the stove. She worked with quiet grace, her hands steady, her voice soft as she hummed an old tune, and soon the air filled with the sizzling of butter, the aroma of bread rising golden, and the rich stew that simmered low and steady in the iron pot. Cole leaned against the doorframe, watching her with a curious ache in his chest, a feeling he hadn't let himself feel since he'd sworn off love after losing too much to the road. Then his girl, little Mary, who hadn't smiled in weeks, crept close to the kitchen doorway and whispered, almost in awe, "Daddy, she makes the cabin smell like home." Cole's heart twisted, because in that one sentence, his daughter had said what he hadn't dared to think, that the cabin had been nothing but walls and shadows, until this stranger's presence stitched warmth into it like sunlight seeping through a broken shutter. Dinner was more than food, it was laughter between bites, Mary giggling at Clara's stories, Cole forgetting the weight of the world for the first time in a long while, and when Clara wiped the counter and tucked the hair behind her ear, Cole saw not just a cook, but the spark of something he'd thought was gone forever. He walked her to the door that night, telling himself it was just business, just one evening, but Mary clung to Clara's skirt and whispered, "Will you come back?" The girl looked up at Cole, her eyes asking what her words didn't, and in that fragile moment he realized that sometimes home wasn't a place you built with your own two hands, it was the people who brought light to it when you were too tired to try. Cole had hired her for one night, but that night planted a seed that no wind could blow away, and though the cowboy's pride wanted to resist, his heart already knew he'd invite her back again and again, because Mary had been right. Clara made the cabin smell like home, and maybe, just maybe, she could make their hearts feel like it too. My friends, if this story touched you the way it touched me, if you believe in love that finds you when you least expect it, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join our family, because we've got more powerful cowboy stories waiting for you right here, stories that might just make your heart feel like home. The next morning, Cole woke to something he hadn't heard in months, Mary's laughter floating through the cabin like sunlight through the cracks. He rubbed the sleep from his eyes, surprised to smell fresh bread warming on the stove, the rich aroma of coffee not burnt but brewed just right. Clara had stayed. She said she'd only be there for one night, but there she was, sleeves rolled up, hair tied back under her bonnet, moving around the kitchen as if she had always belonged. Cole watched her in silence, a storm of thoughts rolling inside him. He wasn't a man who trusted easy, and he wasn't about to let his heart get tangled in something he couldn't promise. Yet seeing Mary's face light up as Clara sliced her a piece of buttered bread made him realize this was more than just food, it was life, being breathed back into a place that had felt empty for too long. Clara turned, catching his eyes, and for a moment he felt stripped bare, as if she could see the loneliness he carried but never spoke of. After breakfast, Clara helped Mary gather wildflowers by the fence, and Cole caught himself watching them from the porch, his calloused hands tightening on the railing, wondering if God himself had sent this woman to mend not only his home but also the cracks in his soul. When Clara finally returned to town, the cabin felt colder, quieter, like the life had drained out of it the moment she left. Mary looked at him, her small voice carrying more weight than she knew. "Daddy, can we ask her to come back?" Cole knelt down, brushed his daughter's hair back, and felt the truth pressing against his chest. He had hired a cook for one night, but it was clear one night wasn't enough. Not for Mary, not for him, not for the cabin that longed to be a home again. And so, as the sun dipped low and the horizon burned gold, Cole saddled his horse with a resolve he hadn't felt in years. He wasn't riding out for cattle or supplies this time. He was riding out for hope, for warmth, for a chance at something bigger than loneliness. Whether he admitted it or not, Clara had already begun stitching herself into the fabric of their lives. And deep down he knew, this wasn't the end of a night, it was the beginning of something far greater.